Orphaned after dragons destroyed his village, Dragneel would study the connections between life and death to bring back his deceased brother Natsu. He would unintentionally curse himself the curse of contradiction, which made him immortal but killed anything he cared about. In his depression, he would create a race of artificial devils called the Ephirius, in the hopes that one of them could kill him. One of these Ephirius would be a resurrected Natsu, whom he would give to the fire dragon Dragneel to raise. Natsu would grow up happy under Dragneel and learn the art of fire dragon slayer magic from him. However, as part of a plan to one day defeat the black dragon Dragneel would have Natsu sent 400 years into the future. Natsu would be unaware of this and would search for Dragneel. He would eventually be found by the guildmaster of fairy tale Makarov Dryer. He would be enlisted into the guild, which would become his new family. Natsu would come to grow into one of fairy tale's most powerful and most destructive wizards. Meliodas was the eldest son of the Demon King and would be named leader of the 10 Commandments, the elite warriors for the demon race. He would fight for his kind during the First Holy War until he met the princess of the goddess race named Elizabeth. He would fall in love with her and betray his kind to join Stigma, an alliance between all the races that opposed the demon race. During the final days of the Holy War, Meliodas and Elizabeth would be confronted by the Demon King and Supreme Deity, the ruler of the goddess race and Elizabeth's mother. The two rulers would curse their children. Meliodas would be cursed with immortality, and Elizabeth would be killed but cursed to constantly reincarnate and die again in 3 days if she ever regained her memories. This created a cycle of Meliodas finding a new incarnation of Elizabeth, only for her to either die after regaining her memories or not, but still eventually dying of old age. This cycle would continue for 3,000 years, and he would eventually become a knight for the kingdom of Leonis and form a squad of outcasts from different races known as the 7 Deadly Sins, with Meliodas taking on the title as the Dragon Sin of Wrath. Welcome everyone to the penultimate episode of my first season, if it's ever gonna finish. Today we cover the matchup that made me want to do this series. Natsu from Fairy Tail versus Meliodas from the 7 Deadly Sins. For Natsu, I will be using him as he is during the events of 100 Year Quest, and I will be using Meliodas during the 7 Deadly Sins final battle with the Demon King, since as far as I could tell, this is his peak. With all that said, let's get started with physical stats and scaling. Natsu is a 20-year-old, possibly 21, human man standing at 5'7" and weighing 143 pounds with a muscular build, molded by years of training. He is superhumanly strong. He can casually chuck large boulders, block an attack from a giant Makarov who is likely being amped, and was completely unaffected by Blue Note's gravity magic, which can create large craters deep into the ground. In terms of scaling, he is easily multi-continental to possibly even planet level. For starters, Fairy Tail's Earthland is implied to be bigger than our own Earth, so what they consider a small country would be the size of our continents. Natsu has fought multiple opponents stated to be capable of destroying countries and continents. For example, Roxas, who Natsu is generally relative to now, defeated Wall Ito, who has enough magic to seemingly casually power a country-destroying cannon, and this level of power is consistent. He can go toe-to-toe with Xerath, who is directly compared to the Phoenix in power, which could destroy the world. I don't think this is hyperbolic either. The moon dragon god Selene enlarged the moon with her magic, which has been calculated to be large plant level, and Natsu can push back against and hold his own against the gold dragon god Fairness, with all of the dragon gods stated to be equal to each other. Speed-wise, even at the start of the series, Natsu can move so fast he appears to be a blur. Lucy even said he was moving at light speed. Once again, this is supported. Urza, who Natsu can keep up with, can dodge Evergreen's Fairy Glitter, which is stated to be light. Gajil, who Natsu again can match and likely surpass, intercepted Wax's lightning magic at sub-relativistic speeds, and Natsu has beaten the Light Dragon Slayer Sting, who uses light magic. Natsu has likely gotten much faster, though to an unknown degree. Natsu is also very durable. He has taken attacks from every notably powerful character in his series, the likes of Zeref, Acnologia, and some of the Dragon Gods. He also has an absurdly high pain tolerance. He fought through being skewered and the poison of Cobra, which decays everything it touches. He also has good stamina. In most arcs, he goes from fight to fight with little time to recover from his injuries. Meliodas is a 3,000-year-old, maybe even older, demon, but has the appearance of a kid standing at 5 feet and weighing 110 pounds with a slim but muscular build. Naturally, being the son of the Demon King, he is quite strong. Also, demons in this world have 7 hearts. They can live fine as long as at least one of them beats, but if all of them are destroyed, they are done for. He can brawl with giants like Diane, destroy a prison and a force field that covered it by accident during an arm wrestling match, chuck a spear across the country, and in general destroys large chunks of land while nerfed. By the end of the original series, he is far stronger. He could go toe-to-toe with his father and defeat the Supreme Deity, who's equal to the Demon King with help from his brother Zeldris, with both kings having implications of being able to destroy the planet. This is consistent because while at half power, the Demon King can defeat the Behemoth, who could shake the demon realm and could even tear it apart, with calculations getting it to either multi-continental or planet level. Speed-wise, he could keep up with Gilthunder and his lightning magic while nerfed, as well as many members of the goddess race who use the light beast attacks. He could also blitz Zeldris, who could swing his sword at around 25 times the speed of light. In terms of durability, he could take hits from powerful beings like the Demon King, Supreme Deity, and Chaos King Arthur. He also has a healing factor, but frankly, it is very inconsistent, and he has been shown to be unable to heal from fatal injuries. This is pretty much dead even. They both have very identical scaling in all areas. Before anyone says anything, yes, I am aware of the solar system metas for Meliodas. However, I don't find them consistent, and even if I did, Natsu has universal metas that aren't completely out of the question. So for the sake of fairness, I'm going with what I find consistent for both. In terms of power and durability, they are in identical tiers. They also have pretty identical speeds, both being likely dozens of times the speed of light in combat and reaction speed. The only notable difference is Meliodas' healing factor, but as I said, it is not especially good. And Natsu's high endurance and pain tolerance more than makes up for it. However, one thing I didn't mention is that a lot of Meliodas' best feats were done while in a higher form. While Natsu is also guilty of this, he also has better feats in his base than Meliodas, some of which were done while he was heavily injured or exhausted. The gap isn't massive, and this wouldn't matter in the long run, but it does mean that on initial contact, Natsu would have an advantage. So I give an edge in physical abilities and scaling to Natsu. Also, Meliodas takes the advantage in weapons and equipment automatically, because Natsu doesn't fight with weapons. Though to go over it briefly, Lost Vein is a curved short sword that is 28.5 inches in length. It has the ability to create up to 6 clones of Meliodas that are all a fraction as powerful as him based on how many are out at once. For example, one clone would be half as powerful as the original, 2 clones would be 1/3 as powerful as the original each, and so on. These clones can also pretty much be taken out in a single hit. With that touched on, let's talk about their special abilities. Natsu is the wielder of Fire Dragon Slayer magic. This entails quite a few abilities. Like all Dragon Slayers, He has enhanced senses of smell and hearing that far surpass that of a human. However, it does come with the drawback of making him very susceptible to getting motion sick, which smarter opponents have taken advantage of in the past. The other big thing amongst Dragon Slayers is the ability to eat their own element to replenish their magic. However, while not pleasant to do, Natsu can eat other elements, having eaten Wax's lightning magic, as well as the Ether Nano crystals, which are pretty much pure magic power and contain multiple elemental attributes. This doesn't seem to be exclusive to Natsu though, since the Iron Dragon Slayer Gajeel can consume the shadow magic of the Shadow Dragon Slayer Rogue. Like I said before, certain elements put heavy strain on the body, and Natsu historically has had trouble consuming flames stronger than his own. Also, Natsu can't eat his own fire. Speaking of which, Natsu's fire itself is especially powerful, and it can get even stronger through Natsu's own emotions. It can even burn away our magic, and has done so to the likes of Genesis Zero, a magic spell that literally erases the target from existence. And when motivated enough, he can even burn through time, whatever that means. However, this seems to be his upper limit, because at that point his own flames were burning him despite his natural resistance to fire. Speaking of which, he has many attacks, their names all starting with Fire Dragon. His Fire Dragon Roar is a large fire breath. The Iron Fist is a punch imbued with fire. The Claw attack is a kick imbued with fire. The Wing attack has Natsu create two whip-like fire constructs. Brilliant Flame creates a large explosion, or in some cases a large ball of fire. The Sword Horn has Natsu charge at his opponent with his whole body covered in fire. Flame Elbow creates a jet of flames from his elbow that propels his punch. Crushing Fang creates a claw-like slash. Lastly, Grip Strike has Natsu grab his opponent and engulf them in flames point blank. He also has a few different forms. When he ate Wax's lightning magic, he gained Lightning Fire Dragon Mode. This form mixes lightning with Natsu's fire and is a massive boost. Natsu went from struggling to fight Hades with help to overpowering him the moment he got the form. It is also worth noting in 100-Year Quest, it is shown that if Natsu ever loses his Fire Dragon Slayer magic, he can enter Lightning Dragon Mode. He uses all the same attacks as before, but they are imbued with lightning instead of fire. Next is Fire Dragon King Mode, which further amps the power of his flame, to the point that he is passively generating intense heat. He also gets two new attacks, the Fire Dragon King's Roar and the Fire Dragon King's Demolition Fist, which are pretty much just more powerful versions of his original Roar and Iron Fist. Lastly, there is his Dragon Force, which is easily his strongest natural form. He has many instances where he has used this form to overpower opponents that were too much for his base. Before I start going over Meliodas' special abilities, I had to come out and say it. I'm not giving Meliodas the 10 Commandments. I know a lot of the Versus community does for some reason, but Meliodas literally can't have them without being possessed by the Demon King, and at that point I consider him a different character altogether. It doesn't sit right with me to give him them, so I'm not going to. With that said, Meliodas is still stacked with pretty powerful magic. Being a demon, he can naturally use darkness magic. He can use it to make constructs of darkness for offense and defense, and can even create wings for flight. He can also imbue his sword with darkness for a slash attack called Dark Prominence. His best attack with his darkness magic is called Trillion Dark. With it, he can launch a barrage of black orbs at high speeds. He can also use and imbue his sword with black fire for attacks like a projectile called Hellblaze and a slashing attack called Divine Slayer, with its more powerful variant, Divine 1000 Slices. However, what Meliodas is known for are his counter abilities. The full counter reflects magic at the sender of twice the power, but requires a weapon to use and to be properly timed with the spell it's reflecting. Counter Vanish allows him to disperse a spell with the palm of his hand. Lastly, Revenge Counter shuts off Meliodas' ability to use magic for a few minutes, but in exchange he stores all the damage he receives and channels it into an attack. Lastly are his Assault Mode and Demon King form. Assault Mode allows Meliodas to tap into his full natural demonic power, and is at least a 4 times multiplier from his base. His Demon King form gives him 2 large limbs and the ability to use True Magic, which can completely erase weaker magic, although he never uses it in combat for some reason. So seemingly the form is either impractical in combat or useless against foes of equal strength. This was a headache to figure out. Starting off, I think both Meliodas, Black Flames, and Darkness are practically useless against Natsu. He can eat fire and possibly the darkness too, and even if he can't, he could definitely burn through it. The counter abilities are Meliodas' ace in a hole. A well-timed full counter can potentially end the fight if used on one of Natsu's stronger attacks, and for the people who commented this, no, Natsu can't eat his own fire if it's sent back at him. However, full counter does have limits. I will talk about this in detail in the next category, but both full counter and vanish counter have only been used on magic projectiles, and while Natsu does have projectile attacks, he prefers to fight up close with a mix of his magic and martial arts. Not to mention, Natsu is smart enough that he only needs to see full counter once and he's going to be cautious of it. Also, if Meliodas ever gets disarmed, then he can't use full counter. As for enhanced forms, I don't know which is stronger between Assault Mode and Dragon Force. My gut instinct is Dragon Force is stronger, but I have no evidence for it, so I will go under the assumption they are in equal multipliers to be safe. Honestly, I don't know about Demon King Meliodas. On paper, it should be able to completely shut down Natsu, but for whatever reason, Meliodas never brought this form out in a fight when he had it. If he is not going to use this against his dad, who's going to destroy the world, why would he use it against this random pink-haired dude? So overall, Natsu has more advantages. Full counter will certainly be a problem, but with how Natsu typically fights, I don't think it will be the deciding factor on its own. So I will give Natsu the edge in special abilities. Like always, with matchups involving sword users, I will use lightsaber fighting forms to better describe how they fight. Based on my far from expert opinion on martial arts, Natsu is mainly an aggressive and offensive fighter who seems to use a mix of Muay Thai and kickboxing. He will use his whole body as a weapon, even his head. He also mixes his fighting style with his magic, often having 1 or more limbs set ablaze as he strikes. He is skilled enough to hold his own with Urza, who's a dedicated close combat specialist with high-level swordsmanship, and he once took on an entire guild all by himself. And while yes, in general, Natsu is very mentally challenged, he has shown to have a good battle IQ. He has predicted the fight pattern of faster opponents, changed up his approach when his magic doesn't work, and has improvised on the fly out-of-the-box strategies that have worked. His biggest flaw though is that he can be easily provoked and hot-headed, which has been taken advantage of by more cunning foes. With well over 3,000 years of combat experience under his belt, Meliodas is naturally a pretty skilled fighter. His main styles would be a combination of Form 4 Ataru, an aggression form based on speed and mobility, and Form 5 Shicho, a counter-heavy form based on strength. When in combat, he could switch between an aggressive approach, often using his overwhelming power and blitzing speed, or a defensive approach, mainly defending until he can find an opening or an opportunity for full counter. This is also reflected in his hand-to-hand style, which again, in my unexpert opinion on martial arts, seems to be a mix of boxing, judo, and Muay Thai. He is skilled enough to hold his own in a 9v1 with members of the Ten Commandments, including his younger brother Zeldris, who has a reputation as the best swordsman of the demon race. Also later in Four Knights of the Apocalypse, he would have a duel with Arthur Pendragon, who wields Excalibur, which gives Arthur the sword skills of its countless past users. His biggest flaw as a fighter is his laid-back attitude. Don't get me wrong, if he is aware of the threat he is facing, he will take them out efficiently, and sometimes even brutally. But when he doesn't feel threatened, he will play around, and he has been caught off guard before. This is probably the easiest category to call. While Natsu's a good fighter in his own right and has an approach to combat that would benefit him against Meliodas, Meliodas just has far more experience and feats of fighting skilled opponents. A majority of Natsu's fights are against dedicated magic users with little in the way of martial arts skills. Not to say Natsu has fought no one skilled, but Meliodas has more examples of opponents that have impressive lore behind their skill. One thing I will give Natsu though is his creative thinking in a fight. Most of Meliodas' wins were straightforward, while Natsu has wins under his belt because he came up with an out-of-the-box solution. But in general, Meliodas has more going for him as a fighter, so I give Meliodas the edge in combat skills. Let's set up this fight. Let's say it takes place in the boar hut. Natsu and Happy stop by for food, and then they are soon puking their guts out. Natsu goes to Meliodas to complain, but soon sees his wanted poster on the wall and puts two and two together. Cut to outside, a massive explosion blasts a hole through the boar hut with Natsu and Meliodas flying out of it. Natsu and Meliodas clash, Natsu using a kick imbued with fire and Meliodas blocking with Lost Vein. Natsu eventually forces Meliodas back and breathes out a fire dragon roar, only for it to be sent right back at him with full counter. Natsu gets up from the blast and looks to see where Meliodas is, only to be jumped by four of them. Natsu gets overwhelmed at first, but punches the ground with a fire dragon iron fist and uses the debris as cover to take out each clone, one by one. Just as he finishes off the last one, Meliodas launches a hellblaze at Natsu, only for it to be eaten. Natsu closes the gap with both his fists coated in fire and gets in close. While Meliodas is surprised by Natsu's aggression at first, it soon becomes apparent that he is the more skilled of the two. Meliodas soon has Natsu pinned in a hold. Natsu then engulfs his whole body in fire. The heat is so intense that it all but melts the surrounding area and burns Meliodas. Natsu uses the opening to hit Meliodas in the gut with a fire dragon claw attack, which sends him flying into a nearby forest. Natsu takes a moment to breathe, only to feel a malicious aura come from the forest as Meliodas flies at Natsu in his assault form, grabbing him and slamming him into a nearby mountain. He presses Natsu down with his foot while using his darkness to restrain him. To Meliodas' surprise, he senses Natsu's magic building up, and with a massive explosion that leveled the mountain they were on, Natsu would activate his Dragon Force. The two would clash with each other multiple times, but Meliodas struggles with the heat of Natsu's flames, especially as they burn away his darkness. Natsu would then seemingly charge up another roar, and Meliodas would see this and prepare for a full counter. But Natsu would stop mid-casting, and with a smirk, charge into Meliodas with a fire dragon sword horn. They would impact into the ground and create a tremor felt for miles. Meliodas would be out cold and Natsu would get up but heavily exhausted. Soon Happy would catch up and warn about a swarm of armed guards coming their way. The two would book it while the guards would take Meliodas to Elizabeth to get healed. I declare Natsu, the Fire Dragon Slayer, the winner. I can just smell the comments about to come in. This is honestly my closest match yet. If anyone thinks Meliodas wins, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you. He certainly can under certain conditions. But more often than not, I favor Natsu. First off, they are identical in terms of scaling. I still think Natsu has generally better base feats, but that alone wouldn't decide the verdict. Combat skills easily favored Meliodas because of his experience and feats against highly trained and skilled swordsmen. But Natsu is no slouch and has fought swordsmen before. In fact, Natsu has more instances of adapting and creating unorthodox strategies on the fly, which will really help him. What this ultimately comes down to is magic, which is a tricky topic. If you think Meliodas' Demon King form is combat applicable, then I could see an argument being made for him, but he never used it in combat for the short time he had it, even against his father, who would have been very useful against. So it is too much of an unknown factor for me to solely base the verdict on it, especially Natsu pretty much cripples Meliodas' offense. He can eat his fighter, possibly eat his darkness, and even if he couldn't, he could likely burn through it. Meliodas' best bet would be a well-timed full counter, but after being used once, Natsu is going to be cautious of it. Also, it and Vanish counter have only been useful on ranged magic. While Natsu has ranged attacks, he's a melee-focused fighter. Also, I find it unlikely Revenge counter can be used before Meliodas gets knocked out or dies. Overall, I can see Meliodas winning. If he uses full counter on one of Natsu's stronger attacks, it's possible. But more often than not, I think Natsu has this. But what do you think? Do you agree Natsu is the more likely victor? Or do you think it would be Meliodas? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Please be respectful, and I am King Cameron, and I will see you all next time. Assuming my video doesn't get delayed again.